In this week's the news, unemployment numbers on the rise again, the ruckus on rucks, back to the exam room on education, and the new report on the COVID response that's horrifying News Talk ZB hosts and government ministers alike. All that and more on this week's the news. Hello there, kia ora, welcome to this week's the news. I'm Paul, and I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed. Hard-right AstroTurf Group and makers of all your racist uncle's favourite Facebook content, Hobson's Pledge, has come under fire this week for the use of a stock photo of Rotorua Kuia Alan Tamati to promote their anti-Maori ward campaign. The image, which had rights use limitations that meant it couldn't be used for public promotional campaigns, adorned Lumo billboards all over the country. The campaign itself was put together by far-right promotional group The Campaign Company, which, for those keeping track, have now been paid a lot of money to shit on Māori wards, shit on water infrastructure and demand rates caps in this year's local government elections. Makes you wonder where the money's coming from. Anyway, when approached for comment, the ghost of Don Brash, seen here haunting the Minister for Smoking, Casey Costello, and, his partner, Western Bay of Plenty mayoral candidate Margaret Murray Benj, said, "Who would have guessed using an image of a Māori woman without permission to drive our racist narratives would cause offence? We just didn't see it coming." The government this week announced changes to how it taxes vehicles, with a plan to move all vehicles to a road user charge system starting from 2027 while removing tax on fuel. While this will see an approximate drop of 70 to 80 cents a litre at the pump, experts have warned that this would see the average driver charged almost $300 more a year. Said Transport Minister Chris Bishop, seen here trying to perfect the Kubrick stare, "This is a fairer system to make us more money, while ensuring the funds for road maintenance are fairly collected by those who cause the most damage to our roads, by putting in blanket use charges that recognise that electric cars use the road as much as petrol cars, but currently pay less fuel excise tax and limiting it to light vehicles, so the heaviest trucks aren't impacted by this change in the same way." Senior Labour MP Megan Woods, seen here showing the look that she reserves for Shane Jones when he makes blatantly stupid claims that allowing gas and oil exploration to restart now will immediately solve current energy supply issues, has announced that she is stepping down from her role as an electorate MP and is going list only at the next general election. The seat of Wigram has a history of supporting long-serving MPs, with Woods and her predecessor Jim Anderton having served 42 years between them in the seat. Said a spokesperson for the Wigram Labour Party, "It's not true Winston Peters has applied for the role, even though there's nothing more he'd like than a seat for life." Education Minister Erica Stanford, seen here wondering how phonics works, this week announced shake-ups to NCEA to simplify the process that she struggled to understand, admitting that an A for achieved and an E for excellence was just too confusing for her, while saying that the system was too flexible. Meanwhile, Associate Education Minister David Seymour, seen here with convicted child sex offender Tim Jago, who this week had another complaint laid against him, whose name was suppressed because it would damage the ACT Party in the lead up to the 2023 general election, has announced the opening of 2 new charter schools because they offer more flexible learning options. The Prime Minister made a surprise announcement earlier this week that he was once again jet-setting out of the country, this time to Papua New Guinea to celebrate 50 years of relationship between the two countries. Luxon, seen here with Papua New Guinea Prime Minister James Marape, teaching him the moves to the time warp because he likes the bit where they step to the right, has said that he wants closer trade ties with the country, and that he totally didn't think PNG meant pro-national guy, which is why he dropped everything and only gave the country 24 hours notice of the trip. In a move that surprised absolutely no one, Minister of Fishy Behaviours Shane Jones, seen here trying to fight Mecha Godzilla, has announced a raft of changes to the fisheries industry that will allow for increased commercial catch limits and the end of public scrutiny over onboard camera footage that's been used several times to identify dodgy behaviours in commercial fishing ships. Said Jones of the changes, "These are the most significant reforms to the Fisheries Act in decades and have nothing to do with my 2 p.m. lunch appointment with local fishery lobbyists." Despite a Supreme Court ruling that undercut the government's rationale for changes to seabed and foreshore laws, the coalition has decided to forge ahead with changes that will make it significantly harder for iwi to win local recognition of customary rights over parts of the coastline in a legal sense. Asked if he expected an upswell in protests around these changes, Justice Minister Paul Goldsmith, seen here when someone finally asks him about his extensive collection of biographies he made to suck up to right-wing politicians, said, "Possibly, but we'll just do what we always do when people get upset about Maori things and call in sick that day." Police have reported a surge in thefts being reported, with thousands more each month now coming to light. The surge has been driven by an upskilling on how to get police attention for shopkeepers from security firm Aura, whose systems include more information to make it easier for police to identify suspects and therefore reach the threshold of solvability the police use to identify which cases to investigate. Said Police Minister Mark Mitchell, seen here upset at the ending of Robocop because the wealthy bad guy gets his comeuppance instead of winning and being seen as a hero. See, the crime was already happening, and it didn't go up because we tanked the economy, and giving people citizens arrest powers and telling the police to ignore shop theft, it's a winning combination for sure. A new report out of Treasury has said that the consequences for the amount of money spent by the last government during the initial COVID response had the horrifying unintended consequences of causing the economy to be in a much stronger position than expected by the end of 2020. With the wage subsidy payments cited as an annoying reason, unemployment wasn't higher, and the 18% of spending in that period on the health system response having the lamentable outcome of keeping people alive. Later stages of the response were more targeted and resulted in the shocking outcome of more houses being built, more infrastructure projects going ahead, more support for vocational training, increases to welfare payments, and school lunches for children. Said Finance Minister Nicola Willis, seen here telling the Prime Minister about the poor people suffering under her financial decisions of the report, "We won't make those same mistakes if we have to deal with another pandemic. We know the economy is probably better off if we did the complete opposite next time." New unemployment data released this week shows our largest city hit with the largest unemployment number of any of the regions at 6.1%. While the finance minister complained people were being really negative about record levels of unemployment exacerbated by her policies and government, Minister for Auckland Simeon Brown said, "Wait, I'm the Minister for Auckland? Well, who knew? Well, I got a job, so why are people complaining?" Kiwi Rail has confirmed that the inter-islander ferry Aratiri will make its final crossing on August 18 this year after 26 years of service. The ship has been showing signs of its age though, with a propulsion fault that saw it halted in Queen Charlotte Sound and an issue which saw it run aground last year. Said a spokesperson for Kiwi Rail, "We see this ship as the perfect embodiment of Rail Minister Winston Peters. It's long past time it was retired, it keeps having issues, and as much as we wanted to see her gone by now, the current government is making us wait for a better replacement." Invercargill City Council has revealed the discovery of over 100 illegal leg hold traps in the popular Sandy Point Reserve. The council warns that these could seriously injure animals and people and recommend caution to anyone in the park in case staff sweeps missed any. Said a spokesperson for the council, "If anyone comes across these in public areas, please report them to us directly. Don't go to the mayor though, he's just going to put them back out there mumbling the N-word and blaming Maori for whatever he imagines is wrong with the place." The Electoral Commission has this week announced the final boundary changes for the 2026 general election. The number of general electorates drops from 49 to 48, with the mana electorate being redistributed to Kapiti and Kenipuru. The number of Maori electorates remains unchanged, while legally there can be no fewer than 16 electorates in the South Island. Said a spokesperson for the Commission, "We looked at population movements from the last census data to help us identify where people are now. And since the government's cancelling the census, we figure we'll probably never have to do this again." And finally, nominations have now been finalised for this year's local body elections, with almost 3,000 people putting their hands up for various roles. This year saw almost 24 positions filled without a vote, as people ran unopposed, and about a dozen by-elections will need to be held to fill spaces where not enough people signed up to run, meaning no election could be held. Of note, about a dozen known elected members with links to Voices for Freedom's Council Watch AstroTurf group have chosen not to stand this year. The links were identified in a letter that they signed off demanding that the Prime Minister never consider any international pandemic treaty in the future. So let's take a moment to remember those fallen conspiracy peddling candidates that wanted to make the country ungovernable and failed miserably.
In the arms of an angle, they didn't want to come back. Elected members pushing disinformation kept being stopped in their track. Almost completely ineffective. They were good at getting bad press. Now they're leaving to focus on some other mess. and get angry at what reality check radio tells them is a problem now. I think voters will be better off without them somehow. I think voters will be better off without them somehow. I think voters will be better off without them somehow.
And that is this week's The News. Thanks again for all the support, and we'll catch you all next week. Hey, thanks for checking out today's video. Make sure you like, share, subscribe so you get more updates as we go along. We deal with these guys for the rest of the year.